Power on.
Real-time Sovryn is go.
Woo, the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star here. And yes, if you're watching on video, you are seeing me. I'm looking you right in the eye, but not only I, but also I am being joined by my brother, my ultimate confidant, the man, the legend, the museum owner, Rob Freebeard. Man, welcome back to, well, you haven't been on a real-time Sovryn yet, have you?
I don't think so. And it's been a while since I've been on the show, period.
Yeah, no, I know. We haven't done a TIE Fighter Renegades in forever. And well, maybe we'll get into part of why that is. Because man, the state of science fiction is a weird thing these days. But for those that don't know, Rob, I mean, how the hell are you? How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, like just in my personal little, bubble. All society is collapsing around us, but I mean, personally, I'm doing great.
Yeah. Right on. I hear you. Yeah. And, I mean, this is the thing for those that are perhaps new listeners, and I know there are quite a few of you. I mean, Rob and I have been actually podcasting together for years and years. And we've clocked in a lot of episodes. And, it can't help when you're a couple of sweaties like Rob and I are, real hardcore old school nerds. You can't help but end up talking about Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. I mean, it just ends up happening. And I think I sent you a message with like a meme or something about Khan, and and you just responded with "Into Darkness is the worst Star Trek movie" or something to that effect.
The worst Kelvin Star Trek movie.
Okay, the worst Kelvin timeline movie.
Objectively, it is the worst Kelvin movie.
All right, so I'll open up with I don't disagree. Like Star Trek Beyond was great. Star Trek 2009, I think, is great. Into Darkness, I'll reserve right now. But what makes that like the worst Kelvin timeline film?
It's just a rehash.
Yeah,
I mean, it's even worse than The Force Awakens in terms of retreading territory that we've gone over before. There were no surprises in that movie.
Right.
I think the meme even you sent me was basically, stating that what's his name, Khan, was, like obviously inferior to Ricardo Montalban.
Oh yeah. That Benedict Cumberbatch portrayal. And like what some people consider like the racist. I don't know if we would even say undertones. It's overtones of like making a Persian guy a white guy, which is strange. But yeah, okay. So I hear that.
I mean, the only good thing about that movie, really, in my opinion, is Peter Weller, and that I wouldn't even say that's one of his better performances. Like I'm not saying he dialed it in or anything, but it's not his best performance.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, I guess I would agree. Also, not even his best Star Trek performance, because his appearance in the 2 or 3-parter in the last season of Enterprise was phenomenal. Like he was so good in that.
Right.
So that's a fair point. Even though, like, I still think, like, he delivers lines in that only he could deliver, like with that kind of gravitas, just with that kind of power, like when he's talking about, war is coming. I mean, it was just fucking epic and you totally bought it. Yeah. So I hear you on that. Okay. What else do you have on it that you can think of that, like, yeah, I mean, I know there's so many inconsistencies that people bring up, like that the script and the editing seem to be like off in that, like, how did this happen before this happened, and blah blah.
Well, I mean, they cut the Klingon scene from the movie, from the beginning of the movie. I think they should have left in. I think that was been good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But they really cut that down. And I remember watching the movie, and the scene where Kirk dies is like, I think I audibly groaned.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, it's a funny thing. You raise a great point, like it being worse than The Force Awakens as far as being like a retread, because like it's not even, one, I think somebody could make the argument that, okay, well, but The Force Awakens was like a dishonest retread. Like it was a retread without letting you know that, as to where they might want to make the argument that Into Darkness was an honest one. But I would push back on that very quickly and say, no, and this is, you and I have talked about this many times that we've recorded, but like when J.J. Abrams said, oh, no, Jonathan Harrison, Benedict Cumberbatch's character, that's not Khan. He openly said that. So this was not an open retread. They were doing everything they could in the marketing to make it seem like they weren't redoing Wrath of Khan, that this was something different. And I mean, from the marketing standpoint, this movie's easily the worst Star Trek in my opinion, not just Kelvin Timeline, because that whole mystery box horseshit that J.J. Abrams was trying to pull in the press junkets was insane. So, and even though they did a comic book where they tried to explain, well, like, how is Khan a white guy with blue eyes now?
Right.
Because whatever, he went through, whatever kind of alteration, even though when he was a kid, yes, he absolutely, did look like a Persian warrior, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I agree. That still comes off as very kind of odd. Even though, was Ricardo Montalban Arabic? I don't think so, but regardless.
No, but I mean, like he's not white.
Yeah, right.
He could pull it off.
Yeah. No,
I mean, certainly there are probably people complaining about that these days if you don't actually cast, somebody specifically of that race in a role, or that is of that particular culture, which, but that was never really an issue back in the 80s.
Yeah, well, I think it's it's all. What's that?
For better or for worse.
Yeah, right. No, totally. Yeah, I mean, and also, it's a character that comes out of the 60s, and I think it gets a little bit grandfathered in, just because I think it actually would have been more insulting to not recasted or to not have casted Ricardo Montalban as Khan. Right. When like he's the man that made Khan the man, right? like his performance was everything for that character. Right. Yeah,
and I mean, just right off the bat, I mean, there are some movies and roles that like you shouldn't mess with perfection.
Yep.
I'm long on record on saying things like, Blade Runner 2049 never should have been made. I know people love that movie, but in my mind, you really like they should not have messed with perfection.
Sure. Yeah. I'm one of those that like the movie.
I know.
But I hear you. No, I mean, overall, I agree. I'm trying to even think of the movie where like other than the Terminator series, or like, well, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 anyway, where it's like, yeah, no, the sequel made everything better, Yeah,
I mean, people would say that about Aliens too, even though I think
that's
the original Alien is the better of the two, but
yep.
My opinion, like when I was a kid, I thought Aliens was the best film in the franchise, but
yeah,
later in life, I've come to appreciate the original Alien more.
Yeah. I suppose Tron is one where I think Tron Legacy just gives so much emotional payoff to ever having been into Tron in any form or fashion. So that's another one where like, okay, yeah, the sequel, like we didn't want to leave that alone. We needed to do something more.
Yeah. Although, I mean, to be honest with you, like for me, the game Tron 2.0 will always be the true sequel to Tron.
100%. No argument for, and you had Bruce Boxleitner in the whole thing. It was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jet Bradley. Anyway, so, Yeah. So, an interesting thing though, getting back to Into Darkness. Recently, Robert Orkey died, who was really one of the main, him and Alex Kurtzman, which the less said about Alex Kurtzman, the better.
The Lost Crew.
Yeah. Him and Alex Kurtzman, were really like, well, okay, there was a time frame where these two guys were dynamite, where, I mean, and again, it's them together. Get Alex Kurtzman on his own and you end up with Star Trek Section 31, I guess, which we might talk about that in a minute. We'll see. But Robert Orkey was like, well, for one, I think he was one of us, like he was a real dork. I mean, just hardcore, and was such, I mean, he got so many things past the finish line that, like, my understanding is his way of thinking was, okay, what B-class property, as in not like the AAA stuff, like what B-class property can we get that we can make so fucking good, that people go crazy about it. And I love that kind of attitude. I mean, and even like his last project, which was what was that, Transformers 1? Is that the latest movie? Yep. That was him. Like he pulled that team together and made that stuff happen. And as far as I understand it, that was pretty damn good.
It was really good. I enjoyed it immensely. It was refreshing after, the garbage that what's his name has been putting out for the last, 2 decades.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay.
Yeah, unfortunately, Orkey was a little bit involved with those, but once he finally had actual control of the reins, my understanding is Michael Bay is like a really, that's a personality that you have to walk around on eggshells.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he worked on Transformers Prime too.
Yep. Yeah, and
another favorite series of mine, Fringe.
Yes. Oh, I mean, yeah, totally. No, Fringe. I mean, Hercules, Xena.
Yep.
Here's another one that I go ahead.
I'm not the biggest fan of Hercules and Xena, but I understand the appeal.
Yeah, it was part of the 90s zeitgeist. Like it was just
right.
It was a thing.
Right.
And also another series that unfortunately not enough people have ever seen. I have the discs, thankfully, but Jack of All Trades with Bruce Campbell. This amazing, amazing, funny as hell, but good time, like spy series in the Victorian era. I mean, Bruce Campbell doing only what he can do. And, so when Robert Orkey died, again, it's just a couple of weeks ago, I think it was like end of February, 2025. We lost one of the good guys here. Now, admittedly, he was very much involved with Into Darkness. In fact, there's a lot of, like, I think he was supposed to direct it and it didn't happen. And there was some degree of falling out. But the reason I'm bringing all of this up, really, well, first off, RIP Robert Orkey. But second off, I kind of recently learned that during the filming, the production of Into Darkness, like the whole production team, Kurtzman, Orkey, what's the idiot's name there? The guy that made The Force Awakens, JJ, right? JJ Abrams. Whoops. I'm sorry. Sometimes things come out of my mouth that I thought I was just thinking. Anyway, they were like going through divorces and they were but it was a really dark time for like the entire production team, apparently. And some people have come out and said, like, that's why they even titled the movie Into Darkness and everything, because there's just like this black cloud around the whole damn production, just because everybody is going through such a hard time personally. And, it struck me because I never really think about that, that like, boy, maybe, a movie sucking or something. Maybe the director really was just having a bad fucking day, or the actors or whatever, you know what I mean?
Okay. I had to push back on that because the Star Wars movies, they're like the original two, like A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back were both notoriously troubled projects. Like everything went on and like George Lucas had to go to the hospital at the end of working on A New Hope because he was just stressed out.
Oh, fired Gary Kurtz in the middle of production of Empire, if I remember correctly. depending upon who you ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Lee Brackett died.
Yep.
While they were, trying to get it written. I mean, just all this stuff happened. And I have a hard time believing like movies can overcome, these kinds of difficulties. It happens all the time, just in our own life, shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that really kind of had it certainly impacts you on a personal level, and it might, impact your, the pacing of your output or whatever, that you're doing. But I don't believe that these kinds of things are what make or break a movie.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, it's fair what you're saying. I mean, and immediately I'm thinking it's like, well, like were Star Wars productions saved because, Marsha Lucas was, she's like, don't worry, I'll take care of it in the editing room. I don't care if everybody's fucking depressed. I'll handle this, I don't know. But yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Right. There's plenty of movies where there's always stuff going on. Yeah, it was something that I'd never really considered that. Wow. Like, yeah, like if you're going through a really bad time during the production of a movie, like that can mess stuff up. And I mean, I should have recognized that. Cause I mean, I know plenty of movies like, like Stallone with Cobra, the movie Cobra, like he was going through like, I don't know, a divorce and doing whatever else and doesn't show up, or like Street Fighter and Van Damme is off on islands doing cocaine, only shows up for 2 hours once a week to do filming, yeah, like these things can affect film production. But I don't know, this just like struck really interesting with me, because I feel like it's a movie. And the reason I say this is I feel like the movie Into Darkness, like there's so many great elements in it, but I agree with you that the total package, it certainly doesn't match up to 2009 and Star Trek Beyond. Like it doesn't match up to those two.
No.
Yeah.
And I for me, I think it comes down to really just a flawed premise.
Yeah. It was a mistake to try and remake Wrath of Khan.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know. I won't disagree with that for a second. I really would have much rather had an original, film idea, something, but whatever. I mean, J.J. Abrams was just the wrong guy in the first place, and I think when you watch Star Trek, go ahead.
And speaking of the marketing, you brought this up early about the marketing of the movie. Remember, this is the movie famously where J.J. all lied to our faces.
Yeah, exactly.
About what this movie was. And the original rumors is that this was going to be like a remake of, the second Star Trek pilot where No Man Has Gone Before, which I think would have been actually a good idea.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. In fact, in the so a lot of people don't realize this, but for about 5 years, IDW were almost not entirely, but almost exclusively the Star Trek comics that they were running monthly were all Kelvin timeline comics. Right. And like the character they did touch on where No Man Has Gone Before. And they did have Gary come back and everything. So that ended up somewhere. And I mean, at the time, like in 2016, I was basically saying, yeah, like this monthly Star Trek Kelvin timeline series they're doing, this is the best comic out there, because it was that good. But yeah, unfortunately they saved all the good storylines for the comics and they didn't put them on the screen. I think that's kind of the moral of the story there. And that's unfortunate, and again, to prove the point, like that J.J. Abrams might have really ultimately been the problem. I mean, you get Justin Lin involved in Star Trek Beyond, and I mean, you see the product of that. It was a great movie, I mean, just fantastic.
Yeah. That movie doesn't get enough credit, unfortunately. No. It didn't. Like, people actually think that is the worst Kelvin movie, which I'm sure we both disagree with that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like it did not do financially. It was, I think, the worst performing Kelvin movie.
Yeah, that's a shame. And I mean, part of that I'll blame on, like, the trailers were not great. Like, and I think that actually colors a lot of people's perceptions, because like the trailers were just, you have no idea what this movie's about. It's very, they're very strange. action packed, but strange. And
right.
So yeah, we can put that there. But of course, then, we all know what happened in 2017. Suddenly, CBS/Paramount, gets this, brilliant idea to bring Star Trek back to television, or should I say to streaming services. And that turned out phenomenal. This is like the best Star Trek's ever been. And Rob is laughing his ass off. Because this shit's horrible. That's why.
It's funny, now that Discovery is over, the way the kind of the tide has turned on that, because all throughout Discovery, like, there were some really hardcore Discovery stans who stood by the show and swore that, this was the Star Trek for my generation. But, now that it has ended and people are able to review it in its, completeness, and I use that term somewhat jokingly, it is not regarded well.
Yeah. That's a great point to raise. I've noticed that as well. The tide shift on that is really
there are some straight up groups on the internet that I am where like you weren't allowed to say extremely negative things about Discovery unless you were being, sort of critical, in a, more, measured way.
Yeah. Very kind way.
Right. Exactly. And now those groups have completely lifted that rules, and people are shitting on Discovery left and right, just mercilessly.
Yeah. No, right on. The Red Angel storyline is one of the worst storylines I've seen in any series ever. Like that whole thing of season 2 of Discovery made no fucking sense. And, admittedly, full disclosure, I'll actually be transparent when Hollywood won't. I have not watched season 3, 4, or 5. Is that how many there were? 5 total?
Yeah. Okay. I watched season 3. I think I watched season 4 too.
Okay.
Was there 4 or 5? I have not watched
5 seasons at least.
Yeah, I have not watched the last season, and from the reviews I've heard that, I've spared myself much pain.
You're quite the masochist, Rob.
Oh, dude. You ended up, joining me in some of my masochism, because as I recall, you were not going to watch any of Strange New Worlds.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I told you not to watch the second season, then you went and did it.
And I did it. Yeah. It's bad.
Like the first season actually was I didn't think was that bad. I think it's probably the first season of Strange New Worlds, probably the best thing that Kurtzman Trek has done.
Yeah.
But it got much worse in the second season.
Yeah. I'll say quickly on that, because this actually, we don't have to get to this question yet, but it leads to a question that I'm going to ask you a little later here. In my opinion, my analysis, and it's a deep analysis coming from somebody who knows Star Trek as well as anyone can. Spock, the character of Spock, is like that. That's what is Star Trek's goal? What is Star Trek's message? Spock is that message. This is the epitome of, conscious evolution, right? Because Spock is oh, no. Even from the classic line of, logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end, and so many other things that's what we're working towards, because Spock later on in life fully integrates his emotions, and he
right.
doesn't discard them anymore. But then he's also not, a savage Vulcan like they were in their past, in their ancestors. And people can disagree on whether or not they think that Spock is this great role model, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't change the fact that I think that was the message, is that Spock is the epitome. And one of the things that really killed me with Strange New Worlds is they fucked that character up. so bad. And like everything that made Spock so great, I think they ruined it. I think they tossed it out the window, you know.
Yeah,
and
that's fair. I mean, they certainly, I think they established a lot of that already in, those first 2 seasons of Discovery where he's in it.
Yeah.
That like the downhill slides kind of started there, He got a nice good shove off the cliff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so Strange New Worlds, total turnoff. I'm sure not Section 31 level turn off, but I'm not going to watch that. Like,
I was going to say, I wouldn't know because I'm not going to pollute my mind with that garbage.
No, I don't even want to know. I just don't. And I was actually, go ahead.
When you told me Ellen's reaction to seeing the trailer, I laughed my ass off.
So for people to know, like I was telling Ellen's like, no, you don't understand how bad Section 31 is. Like it's just like, no. It's like, well, I want to see it. She's like, oh, if it's that bad, I want to see it. And I'm like, all right, let's watch the trailers. And there's 2. Like, let's watch them. And she goes, and she's just like, what the fuck is that? We're not watching that. And thanks, Satan, because I had already torrented it. I had already downloaded it, but I got to hit delete so fast. But it was just so wonderful to just see her like, we're not watching that. Like, yes. So anyway, I mean, one thing that blew my mind with that is how fast that came to physical disc. I mean, like, snap your neck so fast that it was out on physical disc.
Well, they probably already had the discs printed before the show even came out.
Yeah, so that can very and I can imagine. I agree with that, and I think the quick release also. I would not be surprised if that just gets pulled off of the servers. Like they're just like, no, we're not going to deal with the taxes.
I wouldn't be surprised with major franchises if that's the case. That like I imagine that these days that the physical discs are printed by the time that the movie hits the movie theaters.
Oh yeah, there's no reason not to. I mean, like there's like it just makes sense.
Right. I mean, because like they know that they're going to do it anyway. So, and like you said, the since it's all digital these days, the process to, get them into production is so quick. Yep. It said they've either got the disc printed, as the movie's being finished or, shortly, or they've got, the production order in the pipeline.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so easy to just like, because if a movie's a hit, you're going to want to put more, special features on the physical release, and you can just print a disc too if it happens to do well, because it's going to have a longer theater run anyway. So yeah, I think you're right about that.
Well, I mean, I like with and if a movie turns out to be really good, and they just they do a disc without special features, well, that just gives them opportunity to double dip in the future.
No, well, you said it earlier, The Force Awakens. That movie's gotten released like 3 times. And they keep adding special features on each release.
Yeah. Why?
No, I know. It's like, oh, I want to hear JJ Abrams' commentary track. The fuck I do. Like, what are you going to point out? Like, and this scene I stole from minute 37 in A New Hope, and it, like, okay, I could have told you that. Yeah.
I hope after all of this that like. If a copyright holder or franchise owner, if JJ expresses interest in their property, I hope these days they're like, no.
Right. Yeah. Well, what has he even made lately? Like, I can't think of anything.
What has he made ever?
Well, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he did make, okay, that's fair. Like just about everything he's made has been shit. Not all. Like, I mean, the 2009 Star Trek actually was pretty good. And Alias, I think, was a great show back in the day. But beyond that, I mean, I have a theory about this guy. Other than the mystery box horseshit, like, he blew his load on Alias, basically. Like that was every idea he had, he just jammed into 5 seasons of that show. It's part of what makes it really good, but
Yeah. I mean, I watched Lost, and I will even say I enjoyed the first couple seasons of that.
Yep.
But it's the poster child for not sticking the landing.
Yep. 100%. I'm with you all the way on that. Like, I watched the first, couple seasons, and like it lost its way so fast because they did. I think so many things get made to where they keep it ambiguous, and they're looking for fan theories. They're looking for, okay, what do people want? What do they actually want the answer to be? I mean, Lost didn't get to benefit from that as much because the internet wasn't the thing that it is now yet, or wasn't that yet. But I think in general, I think that's going on.
I think that era of Lost was like when the internet first started having like an effect on Hollywood productions, where like, the noise being generated by the internet was just starting to become loud enough that people were paying attention, like in the media and in critics and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you remember things like, Ain't It Cool News and websites like that, that were back around that during that time, and they were hugely popular.
Yep. Slash Film. I mean, so many of those were huge.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's fair. So, well, we kind of touched on how even the people who claim to have loved Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, and so on, that even they're changing their tune. I mean, I can't help if I don't know. I have a hard time imagining a person that just defends like Star Trek whole cloth anymore. Like we used to, in fact, even back, in the early days when you and I were recording, I used to make the statement, and you seconded it, that any single hour of Star Trek is better than any single hour of anything else. Like that's just, so even bad Star Trek, it's like pizza, right? Like even bad Star Trek is still better than any other food. And like, that is just no longer true at all. Like that's, in fact, by the hours, I almost wonder if there's more bad than there's good now. And that's preposterous.
No, I don't know about that.
No.
Yeah, no. Right. I can't agree with that. I mean, you have, multiple seasons of at least 5 good shows.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. By the hours, there's more good. Yeah.
And at least, 10 movies that are great.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So just raw numbers. I think what created that perception for me is like the amount of Star Trek shit that gets made. It's actually not as much, right? Because I mean, even a season is like half the amount of a season of Voyager or, of DS9 or whatever. And so, but it was all coming at the same time. And so it feels like, holy shit, there's so much Star Trek out there right now,
But well, I mean, especially like, back when we had, TNG and Deep Space Nine on the air at the same time.
Oh, those were the days.
They were doing crossover episodes.
Oh, give it to me, man. You cannot see on YouTube from the waist down, fortunately, on me, but got very excited. Oh, those were good times. Yeah, he just, Julian Bashir just shows up on the Enterprise D, works on Data. Okay. Fuck. Anyway, so so we're not in those glory days.
Like even from the beginning of Deep Space Nine, where you had, Picard showing up and being confronted by Cisco. I really think that kind of like set the tone for the entire show. And
No, I agree. And I mean, it's amazing how, in fact, I'm really impressed that they felt the need to do that and that they did it, where they really wanted to lay this out. Cisco is not Picard, right? I mean, of course, he
Right.
directly says that to Q after he knocks him on his ass, with the right cross. It's like, Picard wouldn't have hit me. I'm not Picard.
Right,
So great.
right. But I mean, it's just it's so striking because you've been watching 4 seasons of Star Trek Next Generation by then, and Picard's awesome. Like, how can anybody not like Picard?
Right.
Well, here's why.
Yeah. He lays it down. Cisco laid it down for sure. That was such a bold. You're right. I never thought about it that hard, but you raise a great point. That was a bold fucking move.
Yeah.
To make Cisco almost like actively hate this universally loved character.
Right.
Man, wow, talk about striking. And I don't mean Q. Yes. Okay. So, we had an amazing time in the 90s. And I could stop the sentence there.
Right.
But we had an amazing time with Star Trek in the 90s. And it really leads me to the question that I want to ask you, Rob. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say Star Trek is at an all-time low. In fact, even the lows that people thought that Star Trek Enterprise hit, no, this is infinitely lower than that. Do you think Star Trek can be saved? Do you think it can come back in some way where it's meaningful again, it's commentary again, it's enjoyable science fiction, thoughtful stuff? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know the conventional wisdom is that you're only as good as your last product. I disagree with that completely, and quite frankly, I will say this about really any franchise is that does a poor product diminish the overall franchise? Yeah, I mean, objectively that's true. It can sour your taste for it, but there's no permanence in any of that. I think people who say that X ruined X franchise is just patently ridiculous. Good content is good content. If they start having good writing and good stories and good acting again, you can bring anything back. And not only that, it doesn't prevent you from enjoying all of the good content that came before it. That's all still there. It's still infinitely rewatchable. Yep. There are people who haven't even seen the old Star Trek, television shows and movies who, if you're lucky enough to come across one of these people who's open to it and they get to it, you get to enjoy it for the first time with them and you kind of, relive that experience vicariously, it's still just as amazing as it was back then. Yeah.
What's that Fremen saying about cutting off the arm?
Yes. Yeah. The Fremen have a saying that, right. It's
I know. I'm trying to think of it too.
It's essentially it's complete now because it has ended here.
Right. You cut off the arm. See, it's complete. It's done.
Yeah.
I love that saying. You reminded me of that a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh yeah. So, yeah. I mean, you're totally right. I agree with you. You can always just go and enjoy the classics. Enjoy from the original series all the way up until Enterprise, and if you want to, you could toss in the Kelvin timeline, I guess. If you feel that saucy, but and you can you cut off the arm right there, and and that's great.
I mean, there's so much Star Trek ephemera, novels, video games. I mean, yeah. Well, you're raising. That's another point. You can literally spend a lifetime, immersing yourself just in this one franchise.
Yeah.
Like I've got a huge collection of Star Trek books. I don't know if I'm ever going to have the time to read all of them. There's so many. I mean, and as many as I have, there's probably twice as many books I still haven't even bought yet.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I've read a lot of those, and I always get people saying, "It's like, how have you taken in so much?" It's like, look, I'm 43. I've just been here for a while. Okay, like that's the only reason.
Yeah.
There's no magic
Whereas
trick.
I look at the stuff that I haven't read yet, I'm like, that's my retirement plan.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I say the same thing about my Steam game collection. It's like, yeah,
Right. Yeah, same.
That's for when I'm old.
Right.
Yeah, no, but okay, so you're raising a great point that I want to like address here, because because this is not us. Like, I want to make this abundantly clear. Like, I don't get behind the microphone just to complain about new shit. Because actually there's new shit that's good, and I don't mean Star Trek necessarily, but just in general. But I'm always like baffled by people who, I mean, man, they make it their life's work to just say, oh, now Star Trek sucks. Now Star Wars sucks. Now that, like, and every video, and they'll do like multi-daily videos or whatever, just constantly complaining. It's like, man, then go back and read the old shit, like, because there's no way you've read it all, because I haven't read it all, and I actually tried, you know what I mean? Like right. That was like an active mission of mine, and I couldn't take it all in. I don't believe that you did. And so,
yeah.
And I think it just,
well, I mean, I remember when we were doing TIE Fighter Renegades, and you were still on the mission to read every single comic book and every single novel. And I was telling you, dude, like, you're burning yourself out. Like, like, don't need to do this.
Yep. Yeah, no, Disney didn't care. So, like, and that's the point I got to, is like, well, then why do I? Like, Disney doesn't pay any attention to these damn, like, and they don't. Like, they retcon themselves and 10 times over. And when it's all supposed to be canon, yeah, right. So, I don't give a shit either. But yeah. But yeah, no, but I mean, it really, it goes to show that so many of these, like, YouTubers and influencers and whatever, they just want to complain. Like, if they wanted to, like, they keep talking about, it's like, oh, I want something to be excited about. Well, then fucking go read Best Destiny, go read Probe, go read go read all the Shatner novels for Star Trek. Fucking dynamite. I mean, they are so great. And I know these people haven't read it, because they would have talked about it at some point. And yeah, so there is so much in the past. And I mean, this isn't just true for Star Trek. This is true for just about anything. I mean, like, there's how many fucking science fiction books have just been written in English, and so many of them are amazing.
Yeah.
And go back, it's okay. You can go back. Oh, but nobody cares about that. Ah, I see. So this is not about you. This is about, the social system. But anyway. Yeah, so I guess to get back to the original question of, can Star Trek be saved? I don't disagree with what you're saying. There is a big part of me, though, that feels like, man, that milk has been soured so hard. Like, it's just to have to keep paying attention to that stuff, like, as canon. I mean, I think one of Star Trek's greatest strengths was that, like when Deep Space Nine and TNG were running concurrently, what happened in one affected the other, and you were, like, you had a baseline of, like, oh, I can kind of guess what's going to happen. And now, Hollywood doesn't want you to be able to do that. Like, they really don't. What do you got?
And I'll be honest with you. I think the creative industry, the way it is, and I don't see this ever changing. I think on the long enough timeline, really any franchise starts to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's possible to maintain, an interconnected universe that big.
Yeah.
Past a certain point. And I'm not saying that, we should completely get rid of canon, or that it's a bad idea to have an interconnected universe, because I love crossovers. I mean,
yeah,
look at it, like, when I was a kid, like I was over the moon with Marvel Comics doing crossovers with X-Men, and all the other different Marvel Universe franchise. Didn't necessarily have to be like, I was mainly into the X-Men comic. Whenever they did a crossover with another comic, I always thought that was just the coolest shit.
Yeah.
Not saying you can't have that anymore, but I think we've kind of overdone it to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, on a long enough timeline, somebody's eventually going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I think to a certain degree, we have to kind of like moderate our expectations when it comes to quote canon in large franchises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a lesson I'm learning. I'll admit it. I mean, I think part of the problem is just like Western, particularly Western civilization, because this isn't a problem in Japan. In Japan, you can have 20 million different Gundam series and everybody just loves the shit and they don't care, you know,
Right.
and Satan bless them for that. I think that's wonderful. Okay. But I think it's part of like just West and whatever Western means, but like the Western mind conceptions in that, like, no. The Gospel of Philip is not in the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, or the Gospel of Thomas is not in the Bible. Like, we just have this like beaten into us because of the Christians and whoever else.
Right. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking that before he even came out of your mouth. And, you know, I was just thinking, you know, when you brought up like, you know, Gundam and anime and stuff like that, you know, there was a time when the US experimented with, you know, kind of like remixing and doing their own version of that stuff. And if they didn't do that, we wouldn't have one of the, you know, the greatest cartoons of all time, that being Robotech.
Yeah. Being what?
Robotech.
Oh, Robotech. Yeah. No, right. Most romantic cartoon series ever made, hands down. Yes. That's a good point. And I still like it better than Macross, but you know.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Get your hate in the comments, folks. I know it's coming. At the very least, it's better than most beta, but okay. So,
but I mean, you know, even like, you know, the whole Macross thing, like the origin of that is confused because, you know, it was based on a toy line before it was ever, you know, an anime or a manga. And, you know, like so many franchises that have split off it, like MechWarrior and BattleTech, and just like, you know, it's all over the place.
Right.
And that's the kind of like this is one of the reasons why, like, you know, you and I think is one of the primary reasons why we're so against, you know, intellectual property, is because it prevents stuff like this happening.
Yeah.
And even to this day, like, you know, the rights to, you know, all this stuff like Robotech and BattleTech and MechWarrior, it's all messed up, you know, to the point where almost nobody can use it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think we're finally entering the era where IP is going to die, because LLMs and just, you know, like varying narrow AI technologies are just throwing all that out the window.
Yeah, well, they can't, you know, function basically without, you know, IP.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
They just have to gobble up anything and everything they can.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. But that's a great point to bring up. That is what gets in the way. I mean, you know, I think of like the best Star Trek that's been done in the past decade is, in my opinion, easily. Oh shit! Now what's the name of it? It's the best Star Trek done, and I can't think of the name of it. Not New Voyages, but the one that Vic Mignogna was involved with, where they did. It was like a season 4 of the original series. That's terrible that I can't think of the name of it. Anyway,
New Voyages?
What is it? No.
Yeah.
Well, New Voyages was the one. That was done by the guys in New York, which those are great too. But this was like a separate thing. But it was so crazily well done.
Star Trek Continues.
Yeah, Star Trek Continues. I knew it was a simple name. Thank you. Okay, Star Trek Continues. Phenomenal. Like, burn the discs. I burn the Blu-rays. I mean, the whole thing. Like, this is so goddamn good. It should be canon. And go ahead.
Like, I don't know if they're ever going to finish it. I wish they would get off their asses and finally do it. If like you know, like that initial like Axanar.
Oh yeah,
movie was phenomenal.
I know. Well, that created a huge court battle. Right. I mean, and sadly, like, some of the actors involved aren't here anymore. You know, it's so insane. But that's the thing, is that, like, you know, all right, Hollywood, go ahead and make your shit, but like, let the fans make their own stuff. And may the best person win. I mean,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but that isn't their attitude, unfortunately. But that is one way to solve it, is just get rid of IP and just let people go nuts, create like multiple universes. I mean, and maybe it's even the canon thing. Maybe that's even just an American thing, because I think of like Doctor Who. Doctor Who doesn't give a shit about canon. In fact, the creators specifically hate canon, the whole concept. So I don't know.
I've never watched it.
Yeah. Well, a reckoning may happen in my household soon.
I mean, I to be fair with I'm not a fan of the corny sort of sci-fi. It just doesn't hit with me.
Yeah.
I felt the same way about what's his Seth MacFarlane show.
Orville.
Yeah, Orville. I haven't watched that either. It's just like the tone for me is all off. It doesn't hit.
Yeah. That is one I want to get to at some point, because apparently people say that you get into like season 2 and 3 and suddenly like, no, this is Star Trek straight up. And
yeah, I've heard that too. And I just I don't know if I just don't have the time and patience for it at the moment.
Yep. No, I hear that. Yeah. So I guess ultimately I feel like, okay, yeah, Star Trek can be saved, but I think, and there's no guarantee that this is going to work, because it didn't work for Disney. Like, you're just going to have to wipe out. I feel like you have to wipe out Discovery and all that stuff and just say, yeah. I mean, and now, there's an argument to be made that actually Discovery and everything Paramount's been doing since 2017 is an alternate timeline. I think somebody would just have to come out and say, yeah, that's all an alternate timeline. We're doing, this is something else, and we're going to go into the, 25th century and have a good time.
I mean, honestly, I think Star Trek needs two things. One, I think they need to let it rest for a little while.
Yep.
Two, if you do bring it back, I don't even think you necessarily have to disavow Kurtzman Trek. I think you just have to really just not pay attention to it.
Yeah, I suppose that's worked, because there was in the writer's room in Star Trek in the 90s, there was kind of a standing order, don't pay attention to the animated series.
Right.
And that never happened. Yeah. Even though nothing ever really contradicted it, they're just like, eh.
No. And to this day, people still, debate whether or not it's canon or not, but it doesn't really, alter anybody's enjoyment of, quote, proper Star Trek or the animated series.
Right. Yeah.
If you like it, you like it.
Yeah. I love it. God damn it. It's such a fun show. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Star Trek can come back. Man, it's going to need some seriously evolved ethics, though. Way beyond anything I think we've ever seen before anywhere.
I mean, oddly enough, we could use some Star Trek ethics about right now.
Oh, I agree. I'm with you on that. I mean, especially when, we have the technocrats running things. I think it's, we need a good dose of real logic and a good dose of compassion, which Star Trek offered both in spades. That was its power. Well, let me ask you this. Let's take that question. Rumor has it, now take these with a grain of salt, and I usually don't like to talk too much about rumors, but rumor has it Disney is trying to sell off Star Wars right now. A, do you think that this is true or likely? And then B, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think Star Wars can be saved? What do you got, Rob?
I mean, obviously, I think Star Wars can save.
Okay.
I already established that I think
sure
a franchise being ruined by, one or two bad products is just a complete fallacy.
Okay.
That being said, no, I don't think that they're going to sell it. I think they're too deep in. They've got Star Wars theme parks built into their normal theme parks. I think they're too heavily invested. I think this is another situation where if it stops turning a profit, they'll let it sit for a while and they'll bring it back at a later point. But they're not there yet. They're still plenty of projects in the pipeline, and even stuff that's good. I mean, I'll argue that, like, even though season 3 of The Mandalorian, kind of sucked and didn't stick the landing, I'm not, I still think that there's, potential for those characters and that section of the universe. And I make the argument that Ahsoka was good. I enjoyed that show a lot. Was it perfect? No, of course not. Nothing is. But by no means did I think it diminished Star Wars in any way.
Okay.
So I won't even make the argument that Star Wars is like, I think Star Wars right now is in better shape than Star Trek is.
Oh, I'd agree with that. I do agree with you on that. Like the elements that make Star Wars are still aplenty, as to where I think the elements that make Star Trek are long gone.
Well, I mean, I even argue, like, the best thing that Disney has done with Star Wars is Rogue One and Andor, which are kind of like stepping into new territory and stuff I don't think George Lucas would have ever done.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, if they did sell it and somebody and like the company that bought it would want to do like a get rid of like all the Disney stuff, and say, all right, that's not canon, we're rebooting the canon again or something. I don't know. I don't think people would go for it.
No. I would think that anybody who, would pick up the franchise after Disney, if Disney did decide to sell it, would like at least learn from the past mistakes and see how poorly that went over the last time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was near literal riots. Yeah. The time that Disney tried to pull it.
Oh yeah. People were taking out billboards in Hollywood.
Yep. I mean, serious money getting spent on Disney. What the fuck is wrong with you? Right. That is money where your mouth is, for sure. Right.
And then, and it's still a cottage industry on YouTube to, complain.
Yes.
About, the erasure of the expanded universe.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those cases where it's like, I mean, and that's, the point I've gotten to where I'm just like, all right, yeah, I don't really care about 99% of new Star Wars, but I'll go back and read old Star Wars all day long. Like the comics, the novels, the games, everything. I'll do that shit till I die because it was that great.
And honestly, I think, and I've said this many times before, like, if you want those stories to continue, then write them.
Yep.
Do it.
Yep.
And thankfully, somebody has finally answered that call.
Oh, aren't there novels getting written?
They're not. There's novels that are already been published, and they're available in PDF online. I'm speaking specifically of the Supernatural Encounters, the Trials and Transformation of Arl Hextafon.
Okay. I'm going to have to see about linking to that in the show notes. Yeah, like I knew there was someone in particular who they were like writing, and they've written a lot of novels that were finishing off like the Swarm series, all of it.
That's not the same guy, but this is like I've actually ordered like physical copies. He put these on a limited print run, and I ordered physical copies of these books. They're supposed to be arriving sometime in the next month or so. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to you having them as well. Because I will be walking through your museum. that is amazing. Okay. All right. So this is something I'm going to put a couple links in the show notes. Really getting to point at two different projects, I guess, in this instance. How long has this one been going on that you're talking about?
Oh, this is like his second edition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's like 3 volumes.
Okay.
And it's basically kind of like the main character is like a historian or an archaeologist, and he's going through a lot of kind of like the bizarre things in the Star Wars universe that don't get talked about very often. Stuff like from the Marvel comics.
Oh, nice.
the original Marvel comics.
Green bunnies ahoy. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And it's going into like really, really deep lore of like, the creation of the Star Wars universe.
Oh man. All
and
right.
the origins of the Force.
All right. Everybody's going to be checking this shit out. That sounds so good.
Yeah.
Because I'll admit
it's really interesting. Like I said, you can read it right now. The PDFs are free and publicly available.
Yeah, I mean, because like the Dawn of the Jedi books that appeared towards the tail end of the expanded universe before Disney bought it out, those were a little disappointing. Because they still didn't answer shit. Like,
no.
Okay, they talk about a different time, but go ahead.
Yeah, they talk about it being, like the beginning of the Star Wars universe, but really it isn't.
No.
I mean, like they already have space travel by then.
Right.
Right. Like, and the Jedi already exist.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just like these stone ships.
They're not the Jedi that now. They're the Jedi.
Right, 2 eyes. Yeah.
Right. But it's still it's still the foundation of that organization really already existed.
Yeah. So I mean the stories are fine, but like that was overall disappointing because it's like, wait a minute, I thought we were going to find out the fucking origin. I want to know the beginning. And well, if anybody's taking a pot shot at that, I'm excited to read it. So, but this gets to a point for me in that I feel like this might be part of the problem. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily the problem with Star Trek. That's just bad writing. I think the streaming model does not work for Star Wars. Like with Star Wars, I think you want a complete package, or you want to like rest on it, sit on it, take in the visuals and so on. Just the way that streaming like requires you to have a mystery and a hook, at the end. Like again, with Ahsoka, I know you enjoyed it. I was actually really enjoying it at first, but I'm like, okay, can we get some payoff with what the fuck is Baylan Skoll all about? Can we please get something,
Right.
And we get more of what's going on for Thrawn. What's the deal with Enoch? And
that's the problem is that they're still stringing you along. If anything, they've taken that element from television, like soap operas, and kind of turned it up to 11.
Yeah. And I don't think you can do that with Star Wars. Even The Empire Strikes Back can impressively stand on its own if it needed to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I don't think
go ahead.
I don't think it's so much the format that's the problem. I do think you can do Star Wars television. I just don't think that the the formula that they're using right now is a good one.
Yeah. And again, I think a part of that, what creates that formula is just the perverse incentives of streaming services. Yeah. Exactly. And so I think that might actually be the issue here. And so with that, go ahead. I was initially excited about streaming service shows because for a while there they were making shows to be binged. Yes, that was a good thing. Yes.
And that's a good format for Star Wars.
Yep.
But this thing, like I said, where they keep stringing you on, fortunately, I'm really hopeful about the new season of Andor because, as I understand it, their format for their release is that they're going to be doing these time skips throughout the season, like they did with the first season. But they're going to be releasing the episodes, 3 episodes a week. And the time skips are going to be contained within, each of those 3 episode, collections. So you're going to have a start and a finish to, part of that storyline all within 1 week.
Wonderful. That proves my point, to my mind anyway, because it's like, okay, you can't string people along. Like, give them a package. They need that complete package.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things that, a lot of people, complain that, Star Trek, originally, and then back in the 90s, it was like, every episode was self-contained and you didn't really have so much, a mythology building until later on.
Yeah. It's a byproduct.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's a happy middle ground, where you can have, self-contained stories, but still not necessarily, constrained to one episode, 1 hour episode.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, to the point on canon, like, I've been, no, cajoled's not the right word. I've been kind of nudged. I'll say it nicely. I've been nudged into the lore. I hate that word. Lore is brother's data. You can add an E on the end, but it doesn't change the fact. Anyway, so the lore of the Elder Scrolls, and this, like, I haven't seen a series, a franchise that what's that?
I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, right. Both you and my wife might have something to do with that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, and it's not like I'm new to Elder Scrolls at all. I'm not. But like,
right.
When I'm looking at it more holistically, like, I've never encountered a franchise that relied more on the unreliable narrator than the Elder Scrolls.
Right. Yeah.
So as much as I don't like the crutch that is the unreliable narrator, like that, because a lot of times it's just lazy writing. This is not, Elder Scrolls is of course a different animal. It's not lazy writing. It's like, no, you don't understand how much we have to write. We can't get it all right.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I think I wouldn't say that it's always lazy writing. I think it's cool like any other, and it has its proper place.
Yep.
And like, if you just look at human history, it's like all of our history is subject to the unreliable narrator.
Oh, we're all unreliable narrators.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, they're like, the idea that there's this, like, totally cohesive, always consistent, structured universe out there is kind of like, is not reality at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're hitting at a pretty large, I think, kind of meta point, in that, the idea of like the third person objective writing, the idea that there's like a God, or in art, what we would call the creator, and that like they know all, be all, like that is such a modern invention. And I mean modern go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, basically this is all modeled off of, the Christian Bible.
Yeah.
But I mean, you even think about the Christian Bible, and how often does it disagree with itself?
Oh, all the time, despite what Christians tell you.
Right.
Yeah, no,
so
all
even,
the time.
Even that, is wildly inconsistent.
Right.
And I remember, I grew up in a Christian high school, a Christian, family, and
sure.
I went to Sunday school and all that kind of stuff. And I can even remember, like, the time I started to question all this stuff is when they were making the claim that, a Bible had different authors, but it was all authored by God working through them. And I'm like, well, that's patently bullshit.
Yep. It's like, no, actually the book of Genesis has 6 authors, by the way. Not even one.
Yeah. And to say, like, to say that you're gonna acknowledge all these inconsistency, but still claim that it's the same consistent author with the same message throughout the whole thing. No, I'm sorry. That's
no. Yeah, no.
No.
Right. Yeah. So that, like, that concept, I think we're really hitting at something here that I've never heard anybody really talk about, is that there is this, like, demand we make of what gets presented to us as fiction, like the Bible, or excuse me, as potential fiction, and that like, we just have this perception of what that means. Like, no, this is code and rule. This is how it is.
Yeah.
And
I think that desire becomes even more intense when you start having the multimedia aspect of it, where you're engaging not just, the mind, but, your ears and your sight and everything. It seems like there you have the appearance of literally an objective reality.
Yeah.
Whereas, with fiction in the past, it was all the written word. And so you had to conjure a lot of that stuff on your own. So it was all very malleable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Without getting into like the concept of imaginal realms, which I would love to totally detour into that. But yeah, no, you raise an excellent point. And so, all of this is to say for me, getting used to the concept of the unreliable narrator. And I think part of that has to do, I think your point about multimedia is solid as well, because like you just can't keep track of all this shit. Like not efficaciously. You could hire however many people you want. And you're not going to do it, especially if you try and make a game as big as like Skyrim, no way.
I was just going to actually make the argument is video games in a way kind of have a cheat to this, because nobody's experience of a video game is completely the same for every individual, like what you experience and the timeline of events and how you experience them, it's different for every person.
That's a great point. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think we need to get pretty comfortable with the idea of I don't want to say like canon and not canon, but like, and you can't say non-canon. It's like rational and irrational. There's actually a place in the middle that's called non-rational. It's not irrational, but it's also not rational. And I don't know what that middle place is in canon, because there's canon and not canon. I don't know what that middle place is. Maybe it's like, I don't know, hyper canon or something. I have no idea. But
yeah. And you can't get around it by doing this, multiple universe bullshit either.
Oh no, that has to stop.
That's just stop that shit.
Yep. It's weak science and weaker writing, in my opinion. So yeah. It's something fun you could do every once in a while, but man, you can't. No.
Yeah, no. You can't base the entire franchise on that.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the reasons why I kind of started falling out of love with Rick and Morty, is because it was relying heavily on that shit.
Yep. Yeah, I can hear that. Yeah. Like it's fine, you do it with like Star Trek, you do it with Mirror, and you even do like callbacks to that.
Right.
It's okay if you do it with, SG-1 or something. But you got to have a point to it as well. Like where like in SG-1, when they would do that, it was to actually save the main universe, or it was like informing the main universe what was coming. So it wasn't exactly a multiverse. It was just like a little bit more looking at the future, I guess. Anyway, regardless. The multiverse, just horrible. Yep. I'm with you on that. Okay. So we can save Star Trek and Star Wars, and some people are actually already on top of it.
Anything can be saved. Anything can be saved. I reject the idea that, one piece of media destroys an entire franchise. That's ridiculous in my opinion. And the people who think that way are quite honestly being childish.
Yeah. Something I learned just recently, and I follow this shit like a hawk. And like, if this was ever said before, I really think I would have caught it. But so another thing is that really like a series like Babylon 5, which by the way, does also contain some contradictions. Like I know them and I can admit to them as much as I don't want to, because if there is a holy book, that's it. But the animated movie that came out a couple of years ago, 2023, I believe, The Long Road Home, basically just got there was a new release of the Babylon 5 encyclopedia, and there's like addendum material to it that included that movie, because the encyclopedia originally came out before that movie came out. And in the marketing materials for this new version of the encyclopedia, it directly states that Straczynski considers the long road home to not be canon. And I'm just like, motherfucker, you're the one guy that is supposed to do this right. Like, you're the guy who's like, no, it's canon. Yeah. You know, everything's, it's all canon.
Did he not write it?
He did. I know that. There's no, like, I know. I don't understand. Like, why are you not calling, like, you 1000% should be saying this is canon. Anyway, so, like, maybe that's the thing that, like, actually, and I just learned this a couple days ago. It's why it's fresh in my mind. And maybe that's the thing that's like making me finally, because we've been at dinner together, you and I, and you're like, Brian, like, you ever think that, like, you know, just the things you don't like, you don't have to think about, and you can kind of have your own head canon, and like, you can still like some new Star Wars and all that stuff. And I would just say to you, like, no, I can't do that. Like, that's not how this works, you know. But now I'm getting to the point where maybe I can do that, because if Straczynski isn't going to keep his shit right, well, then we're all fucked. And that's just how I feel about it. Oh, well.
Yeah, I unfortunately, I honestly do believe it's like it's an impossible task, and you're asking too much.
Yeah.
For a franchise that's, you know, that long lived and has, you know, that much, you know, and I'm sorry to use the word, but that much lore.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. Well, I think actually, I mean, I think that's the reason that word has come to prominence, because people don't want to use the word canon and not canon anymore, you know, so they just say lore, and I get it, you know, like,
yeah,
it's where we're at. Well, okay, so we can save anything. We can, and that ultimately, I think, is good news. It's just, as long as AI doesn't make it, we'll be fine.
I mean, I'm not even that hard against all AI. I think there's definitely like a ton of AI slop out there that's kind of like muddying the waters these days. But there's some stuff that there's a proper use for AI.
Yeah. No, you know, you raise a good point. Like, some of the things, particularly when it comes to video AI, there's some people doing the Dark Lord's work out there, and I'm glad that they're out there. Like, they're making. I
shared something with you recently. I don't know if you've watched it yet.
Oh, I did. That was like with it was Zorga, or the
the unanswered oddities, and the monoverse.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Another thing, I'll try to remember to link in the show notes, because you're in for quite a time.
Yeah, the less we say about it, the better. Like,
yes,
like if you experience it raw, it's the best.
Yes, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, so some of the stuff being done with video AI, even with, you know, like pre-established or with established franchises, are things that, man, if I was like, you know, 16 again or something, like I'd be, yeah, let's go. You know, like I'd be so jazzed. And it's fine. And it's stuff that can even honestly exist. It doesn't matter if it's canon or not, because like, it's just visuals or things you always wish you got to see. And it's really cool stuff. So I'm with you on that. I'm not against, I mean, even though there's a human behind it, you know, it's not like something wholly unique.
Well, that's the best part about it is when there is a human behind it, and they're actually like crafting a story that's, you know, unique to their mind. It's the stuff when you start using the AI to generate the story. Well, then that's when you start getting a lot of garbage and noise.
Yeah, well, that's how Marvel movies get made. So right. So, but that's why, again, you know, I mean, I feel like this gets said, enough people say it, thankfully. I mean, I think it should have never been called AI. Microsoft is full of dumb ideas, but the one good idea they had was calling it Copilot, because that's all it is. You know, like, it's not, I don't think it's an intelligence. It's just something that can work with you. You know, it can.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's I don't think intelligence is the bad part of that. You know, something that's artificial. You know, we talk about, like, you know, synthetic chemicals. They're like pretty much the same thing as the natural chemical, just that it was made in a lab.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's it's fair to say that they're analogous, and you'd have a hard time telling the difference between one and the other. That's not the case with AI. Um, there's a role playing game series where like it takes place in the future, and they had something that's called VI, virtual intelligence. I think that's what we actually have today is virtual intelligence, because you don't expect something virtual to be as good as the real thing. No, it's kind of like way below that.
Right. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I like the idea. Like I like the term. I don't know. I'm still kind of stuck on like that intelligence might not. It's
well. I mean,
tough argument. Go ahead.
I mean, do stupid people still have intelligence? It's of a kind, right? You know, you wouldn't say that it's great intelligence, but it is intelligence of a kind.
Yeah, I was going to quote a Jedi Master that said the ability to speak does not make one intelligent.
Yeah, true.
Which is
true.
Probably one of the most racist moments in, because you just had to say it to a Jamaican accented guy. Come on, George. I know you know better. Anyway, but
I spake.
Oh, Jar Jar. But it's better if you don't. You know, we love you. No. No, I'm a big believer in the Darth Jar Jar theory. So I think he's a lot smarter than we give him credit for.
You have manipulated me.
I love that so much.
I do too.
Yeah. Okay. So where were we? Virtual intelligence? Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people make that argument that, like, you know, it's a different type of intelligence and blah blah, and like, maybe I can buy into that to some degree, maybe. But you know, this like, go ahead.
Yeah, they used to call that the enemy, you know, programming they used in early, you know, first person video games, artificial intelligence too.
Yes.
You know, and so I understand the disagreement, because I mean, like, that's about the farthest thing you can get from an intelligence.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, just go read reviews of video games and you're going to see, oh yeah, the AI is really like does this stupid shit. It's off the, you know, and you know that is an incredible point to bring up, Rob, because why the fuck was nobody freaking out about this stuff back then? You know what I mean? Like,
no,
I mean,
they were. Nobody was listening to them.
Oh, maybe. I mean, maybe you're right about that.
You think about that. You think about that article that Bill Joy wrote in Wired back in like the year 2000 called "The Future Doesn't Need Us Anymore."
Yeah.
That to me like was like the first time I can remember somebody like really laying it down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like the inherent dangers with some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, the medium is the message, and I think that's an important thing to bring up, because like what I immediately thought was like, yeah, why wasn't anybody making a fucking YouTube video about how, like, look how intelligent enemies are becoming in video games, you know, and this means that the end of the world is coming, Satan is here, and blah blah blah, you know, and like, why wasn't that being made? Well, the reality is that even the technology to make that video for the average dumbass who would think that way, you know, didn't exist yet. And like the internet, like Twitter wasn't even here yet, you know, and things like this. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. But Bill Joy, like you say, go ahead.
And to be fair, I think to a certain degree, like we were kind of like desensitized to a certain degree with media, like, you know, like movies like The Terminator, where it's kind of like taken to its, like, you know, the extreme of a killer AI that just wants to kill everything. Which is, you know, it's an interesting story, but it's kind of ridiculous if you really think about it. Yeah.
No, I agree.
And in that sense, AI kind of became a joke.
Yeah. Boy, you know, it makes you want to talk to some AI researchers and be like, tell us about, how do you feel about Terminator 2? Like, how does, you know, and I bet they would have some very interesting perspectives on the matter, saying like, you have no idea how much this harmed, like technological developments for that could have been very beneficial for a very long time.
Right. I mean, it got to the point where, like, Skynet kind of became the colloquial term for, evil AI.
Yeah, no, it is right. It's like Google to internet search. I mean, it is the term that you use.
And before that, you even had, HAL 9000. Same thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Something. Yeah. Good point. Science fiction, in minus maybe Star Trek and like the Culture series, really has had a broadly negative view of AI, like almost every time, even in kind of the more like Blake 7. In Blake 7, AI is not good. Like, yeah, it might be part of the crew, but it's not helping you.
Right.
That's interesting. I wonder if science fiction writers, I mean, even look at Dune, thou shalt not make a machine in the mind of man.
I'd put that in a different category, to be honest with you.
Tell me about that.
I think Herbert's criticisms of technology in that way were a little cut above, and not something that gets talked about often enough. People talk about Doom, they want to talk about the spice and sandworms. They don't really talk about the Butlerian Jihad very much.
Well, I mean, not a lot written about it, or pre Brian Satan Herbert.
Right. And he pretty much turned that into a joke.
Which, by the way, our Dune Prophecy review episode is coming. and I can see Rob biting his lip. Even under that beard, he is biting his lip. He wants to rip the new asshole on that one.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah. I mean, so, well, I guess Marvin Minsky already did start working on AI at Dartmouth by the time that Dune was written. Not that like AI being actually worked on was like a prerequisite for science fiction to write about it. I'm sure it was written about plenty of times before then.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about the point that like Dune is a bit different, where it's not just like a scare tactic. There's really more of a point. It's where I think with James Cameron, I mean, as great as the Terminator movies are, or some of them, and certainly as great as the Sarah Connor Chronicles was, it's actually not like, you're totally right. Like, so much of it just doesn't make sense. It's actually not like great storytelling. What do you got on that?
I mean, depends on how you define it. I mean, it's compelling. I don't know if I'd say it. Yeah, it's probably not great. I mean, although I'd say that the first two Terminator movies are great,
But I mean, they are just slasher films, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's saying that slasher films can't be good. Like they can. Like they can be compelling and enjoyable. I mean, like the point of a movie is to entertain you, and they're very entertaining movies. So they accomplished their goal.
Yes, that they did.
But like the degree to which entertainment can be absurd is not directly tied to how good or bad it is.
Sure. And I guess the point might be that like it shouldn't. I mean, I think there's time where fiction, like say Star Trek, can directly speak to what's going on in the world and what's coming and what we can be and so on. It can be aspirational.
If that's your point.
Sense.
Yeah,
right.
If that's your point. Like your goal is to actually, provide social commentary, then you kind of have to like be a little more grounded. Yeah.
So, because I agree, slasher movies can genuinely be great, but I also don't think that they should be scientific commentary or, like they're not scientific papers. And never should be. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is that I think the Terminator films became so much part of like the cultural psyche that they basically became scientific research. And
well, at the very least, like I said, I think it trivialized AI and our perception of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not expect this conversation to go that way, but I think that is one of the, and I listen to a lot of shows that talk about AI, and nobody really brings this up, like what we're talking about right here, that, hey, you know, maybe our cultural touchstones like the Terminator series have actually done, are like coloring our perceptions in ways that have no basis in fact, and have no actual real bearing in reality. And boy, somebody really should address this. like seriously, why isn't Sam Altman out there saying look, do a complete deconstruction of Terminator 1 and 2 and just say, look, these are the problems with this. Like, this is not the direction we're going. Not that I'm like wanting AI overlords,
Yeah. Well, but I think that there's a degree of elitism and why this is not being addressed is because basically you're kind of addressing, the common person, which is kind of like their perception, like the lowest rung.
Yeah.
And, addressing those kind of concerns are beneath them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. It's better than the possibility that no, they actually don't want to deconstruct the Terminator because they actually want T-800s for themselves, that being the billionaires.
Yeah.
And I would argue they're working on them.
No, they already exist.
Oh, right. Boston Dynamics. Yeah.
Well, not only that, I mean, you look at, if you've actually been paying attention to what's been going on in the Ukraine war, a lot of it is drone warfare.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I've made the point, like the reason that the US or like other countries in general are like giving Ukraine munitions, giving them weapons, is because what was happening when they weren't giving it to them was Ukraine, like they were developing like these guerrilla style drones, like they were reprogramming iPads and everything and really making guerrilla automated warfare. And I think the rest of the world was like, oh shit, because all of that is copyable by anyone, and so they're like, no, all right, let's give them the weapons so they don't go develop their own.
Well, the other part of it is it's very much become, a live test ground for defense contractors.
Yes.
In fact, literally, like they've set up schools in Europe outside of Ukraine where Ukrainian soldiers who have experience using this technology in real combat go to teach the rest of NATO how to use this technology and what their experience using it is.
Yeah. So, so at the risk of sounding like we just contradicted ourselves, but fortunately this whole episode we were saying contradictions are okay. No, but so Skynet's not here, but the T-800s are. So like that's right. And the hunter killers and
right.
Yeah.
Hopefully nobody gets the bright idea to, hook the hunter killers up to, the blockchain or anything.
It's funny you say that. I think back to that Ethereum white paper from so many years ago, and it's right there in the white paper. Yeah, you could actually control drones with on the blockchain, and people could have their own personal defense forces. What could possibly go wrong? Everything will be fine. We live in a world where billionaires aren't happy having $1 billion. And if that's not a problem, I don't know. I don't know what to tell people.
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't evolved nearly as much as a species as we think we are. We're just doing feudalism with extra steps. Yeah. We're doing it's W2 feudalism.
The tax form's just a little longer.
Yeah, for you and me.
Yeah. I kind of like that feudalism with forms. That's the world we live in. Anyway, this is the reason we need good Star Trek again. Like really. All right. Well, we just brought it full circle, but I don't want to leave everything with doom and gloom. But we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. But Rob, I think we want to send everybody home with a nice positive message, or not a positive message perhaps, but at least something that they can, just enjoy, sit down and enjoy for a little bit. You tell me about a little show called Silo, brought to you by Apple.
Where do we even start?
Is this the best show on television right now?
Yes, objectively.
2 seasons.
Yeah. This
Right.
is the best show on TV since The Expanse.
Wow.
No doubt about it.
Wow.
I will not pull punches on that. It is that good, and I'm really looking forward to the next season.
And are we getting a season 3? Has that been confirmed?
Yeah. I believe so.
That's amazing. I mean, like I know the show, rave reviews.
Believe me, I'm as shocked as anybody that Apple in recent years has been producing some of the best content that there is. They've had some stinkers like Foundation, but
well, yeah, I'm with you. Quick comment on Foundation. I think this is a separate subject that I know we're going to talk about when we do our Dune Prophecy review. But like, because this is another problem in Hollywood, in that nobody wants to make like things with fidelity anymore. As in, like when somebody says, "Yeah, I want to make the Foundation trilogy," no, they don't want to make the Foundation trilogy. Like they want to make their own story, and but the only way they can get their story made is if it's attached to some kind of owned IP by the movie studio or the production studio. So this is a huge problem. Also in Hollywood. I mean, it's also something that infected Star Wars, I think, as well as Star Trek. We didn't get into that part, so I'm glad we got to at least bring it up a little bit. But I think like Foundation, like, yeah, it's not Isaac Asimov's novels by any stretch. And there's certainly plenty of things that are like actually bad about it. But it's a different animal. And in that, it does have some qualities. That's all I'm going to say. Review to come in the future. But anyway, continue with Silo.
Yeah, if you're I'd say if you're a fan of it's like Fallout for adults.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Yes, even though Fallout is certainly very adult these days.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's adult and then there's adult. I mean, adults. I mean, Fallout is still kind of like like it's obviously like adult in terms of like sex and violence.
Yeah, and way more intellectual.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, so I mean, we don't have to get into like the whole story, don't have to spoil it, because this is something where, I mean,
yeah, this is another one of these ones where like I think if you go into it not knowing very much, it's going to be better.
100%. I mean, I've enjoyed what I've watched. I actually already read the books a while back, and like and to its credit, it does a pretty good job, at least getting with with the books, as good as say David Lynch did with Dune, which we all know how much we love that, and I mean that. So certainly way better than Villeneuve did. But yeah, like I think it sticks pretty well. And so, yeah, I think if you went into this, even without reading the books, if you just went into it blind, like you're going to get an even better experience then. I mean, with having knowledge of the books, it's still cool, but yeah, anyway, sorry, keep going, Rob.
No, I mean, like, I just want to tell people to go watch it. As I said, I don't want to get too deep into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very relevant right now too.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's going on in our society. It provides some really good social commentary. The way, like Star Trek used to do.
Right. Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, and boy, the actors are everybody's top of their game in this. Like,
oh yeah, oh my god, yeah,
flawless.
Really, so like, I mean that's half the show right there is the performances. It is just so well performed.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I think actually one, like your comparison with saying this is like the best show since The Expanse, because that was another show that I felt like was absolutely flawless. Like, I don't think we fully appreciated that Thomas Jane is one of the greatest actors we've ever been graced with, you know, but when people watch The Expanse, I think they finally got it. It's like, oh yeah, no, Thomas Jane's amazing. So yeah, I'm with you on that, you know, because again, yeah, The Expanse was absolutely flawlessly executed. It's amazing how great that was. You know, you even made the comment to me, you think The Expanse is better than Star Trek. Do you stand by that?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit, it's a more realistic reflection of who we are rather than who we want to be. I'd say, you know, better is kind of like, you know,
well, it's nebulous.
Yeah, it like there in some ways that Star Trek's better. Like I said, I think Star Trek really excels at being a you know, really good reflection of who we want to be.
Yeah,
I think
it's aspirational.
Yeah, it's aspirational, and I think we definitely need that.
Yeah,
you know, in our society.
Yeah.
Whereas I think The Expanse holds up a more realistic mirror to humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Because like,
and we have to do that too. We have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and recognize who we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think where The Expanse excelled was like, I feel like a lot of, I mean, Babylon 5 might be an exception, but I feel like a lot of science fiction really doesn't do the politics very well. Not really. In fact, the politics always feel very technocratic. Like it's a very basic or very immature, I should say, understanding of politics in general, I feel.
Right.
But with The Expanse, it was not. It was front and center. And the fact that it didn't ignore the fact that that's not going anywhere was pretty powerful, was certainly part of its grip.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring that up, because I mean, it really kind of comes back to a lot of what we've been talking about. Like, I think when, you know, storytelling does politics right, it's some of the best stuff out there, like Dune, like The Expanse, like Silo.
Right. Yeah. So somehow Dune, being the greatest that it is, somehow Dune, like explores the worst of tyranny, and you know, and still comes out the other side okay. Like it really, that's an amazing thing. But unfortunately, we never got the real Dune 7. But whatever, that's a separate subject. But for now, we do have Silo that everybody can go and watch. And I will second Rob's point that, like, wow, you are in for some real mind-bending shit.
It's a hell of a ride.
Yeah, it really is. All right. So with all that said, we've got good stuff. You know, there's things you can go out there and enjoy, folks. You don't have to watch the news, and they're lying to you anyway. But to some degree. All right. Who even does that anyway? Everybody watches YouTube now, and I'm not even complaining about that. Like, you know,
I'm guilty.
Right.
I mean,
I was shocked. Like when they came out with that report that said, I mean, and Google has all the metrics, of course, you know, they said that more people watch YouTube on TVs than any other device. And like that's amazing, you know, that at least we have that in the future. We do have fully democratized television in a very real way, other than, yes, there is, you know, some copyright and censorship control on YouTube that people are right to bring up, you know, and I guess they go on Rumble or something. But yeah, we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You watch enough YouTube and you start to recognize, like, how the algorithm is feeding you content. And you kind of have to like, you get to a point where you have to be like aware of the content you consume, because it's going to be a future predictor of what the algorithm feeds you.
Yeah. Boy. I mean, the whole subject, we could get in on that. Because, like in some ways, like these algorithms really can know you better than yourself, because like you're acting upon so many unconscious factors, and that the average person doesn't recognize, that they're even doing, like, oh, why did I, pause the remote on that one thumbnail, you know what I mean? And
Right.
like all of these little things that you don't even consciously recognize you're doing, but you're doing it. And it's based upon your body's own, for lack of a better term, desires, its own wants. Okay. If that's more comfortable for people. Yeah. In some ways, like it can know you better than yourself in some ways.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
go ahead.
Granted, like it, and the ways it might, I wouldn't say that it knows you better than yourself. I'd say that it tracks things that you are not consciously aware of.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't say like it knows you in a way that's really kind of like deep or comprehensive in any way.
Oh, yeah, no, but what it can know, I think, is like what you're going to think next. And that's kind of a weird thing, meaning that like you suddenly wonder, hey, wait a minute, why am I watching a video about shaving kayaks? And
Yeah. Like for a while, the algorithm started feeding me videos about people who go out and basically do work on cows' hooves and
right.
scraping them out and everything. And like I watched one video of this because I thought it was weird and interesting looking, and suddenly the algorithm's feeding me this all the time. I'm like, no, I have to stop. It's like I don't actually want to be watching this, every day for hours on end.
Yeah, but I think the algorithm knew. I think it was saying we know where Rob's going. He's ready for the farm. He's ready. He's ready to leave.
No.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, and of course, the easiest way how to combat this. Look, folks, there's a subscription tab on the on the mobile app, on the website, on the TV, everywhere. Like, and you can just hit subscriptions, and the only thing you'll ever see is who you subscribe to. So, but for some reason,
that's the way it works.
Yeah, right. Well, it won't work for the homepage, but it's amazing. Actually,
do you remember the once upon a time when the homepage was like just your subscriptions?
Yeah.
No,
I know that was a long time ago. And it's crazy. Like, and I think Google just leaves that subscription tab there for legal reasons, to basically say it's like, no, we've given people the option. And
yeah, I actually have that set up as the link on my bookmark bar.
Yep, same.
Going
I was just going to say,
because like sometimes I don't want to be fed garbage by the algorithm.
Yeah, but what's scary? Like people have the metrics on this, and like I can even look too on my own YouTube channel, and how many people come through the subscription tab, and it's almost never 1%. It's not even 1%. Like nobody uses it.
Yeah, well they've hidden it so well.
Yeah, it's just innocuous. It's there, but it's innocuous. It's just like,
I don't know if people know this, but like there's a bunch of different like quote default standard feeds within YouTube. There's a news feed, there's a gaming feed. I don't know if anybody other than me uses these things, but they exist.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like when you think YouTube, what colors do you think?
Red and white.
Exactly. And if you're in dark mode, maybe gray. But you got it. Yeah. Bingo. Red and white. Now, again, it's one of those things I don't think most people consciously recognize, but once you know about it, you can't help but see it. But like everybody in their thumbnails uses the color yellow for like the text, or they'll use maybe like light blue. They'll like those. and it's because they just stand so far apart from the red and the white.
Yeah.
It gets your attention.
Yeah, it's funny the little games some of these channels use too, where like they'll put, a portion of a red bar at the bottom of the thumbnail to make it look like you've already watched part of the video before and didn't finish it.
Bingo. Yeah, but that's the thing. So like YouTube basically only has two colors, right? Like the YouTube UI itself. And so, like Google doesn't want you to look at all the options you have. They just want you to see what poops in front of you, for the thumbnails. That's it. And it's so bad.
You say that because like there's a particular genre of videos called YouTube poop.
What?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to look at this.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. Well, folks, now you got all kinds of things to go look at. Get a silo for your YouTube poop. Oh man. All right. I don't know if I want to know what this is. Like, is it really just videos of people shitting?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. We're going to leave the mystery. That's going to make everybody go.
The word poop is more euphemistic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. All right, brother. Well,
I mean, have you ever heard of, and this is an old channel. You heard of, oh God, what's it called? Josh Bullshit?
Yeah.
That's kind of YouTube poop kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. I got you. Yeah. I still might take a look. Anyway. All right. As long as it's not strong bad, we're fine. No.
Yeah. That's a different era.
Yeah.
That's flash poop.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Which doesn't exist anymore, really.
No, thanks, Apple. Actually, Flash is a terrible protocol. Thank you. Really, we mean it.
That's more Adobe's fault than Apple's fault.
True. Yeah, like as soon as Dreamweaver was gone. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Steve Jobs. We appreciate you for that one. All right. Well, brother, as always, the best of times. And we're going to be doing this more often, folks. Rob and I both have very stable internet connections now, and so we're going to be rocking this stuff hard, and all kinds of topics I'm sure we'll get into, because boy, Rob is quite the Renaissance man, I must say. You start talking about any subject, and he's like, well, actually, he's one of those, and in the good way, not in the annoying way.
I can be annoying. I'll admit it.
Well, not on this show, brother. So, all right, we'll wrap this one up. And Rob, is there anywhere you want people to go to find you? Is there any particular spot?
I don't even want you looking for me.
Yeah. He's doing it right, folks. He's doing it right. No links, nothing. No. Beautiful.
There's a giant sign on my internet presence that says "Go away."
Rob is the ultimate in internet get off my lawn. So yeah. I love it, man. All right. Well, we'll be back again soon. I guarantee everybody that. And again, Rob, always a pleasure to have you on. And we will see everybody else on the other side.